Hello random viewers and welcome to another flying video. In today's episode we're in a Piper Arrow. You can see I have a red headlamp, that's because it's nighttime, and red light does not interfere with night vision in the human eye as badly as other kinds of light. Anyways, what I was doing here is doing a few touch and goes to a full stop at night. This is required every 90 days if a pilot would like to carry passengers at night, and I was planning to go on a trip to Ohio. I have family up there that I wanted to visit, and I planned on potentially flying them at night, so I wanted to get these takeoffs and landings in. Now the Piper Arrow is a little bit different from the previous planes you've seen on this channel because it has retractable landing gear and a constant speed propeller. I'll explain those later. But lesson one is definitely put the gear down before landing. So we made sure that's down. You can see right by my hand there's some green lights that indicates the landing gear is down. After the landing I stopped very quickly so that I could take off right there from the runway. After the first landing I did taxi back to the end of the runway to make sure I had the full length, but after I was sure the engine was working well, the next two landings I just stopped there on the runway, then took right back off without taxiing back. Gives you a little less distance, but it's fine. Here's a map of the course. We took off from GMU, then went to Foothills. In addition to visiting family, one of the other purposes of this flight was to fulfill the requirements for a long cross country for a commercial pilot's license. That involves 3 legs in the flight, which requires 4 different airports. So Foothills was a nice convenient one along the way. And then from there I went up to Coshocton, Ohio, because they had a very good fuel price. I could refuel, have the plane completely full, make it to Geauga County, Ohio, which was the final destination, and have plenty of fuel for any flights that I might need to do there, and then later to get back to Coshocton on the way back. With those night takeoffs and landings done, it was time to make our way towards Foothills. You will be able to see over time the windshield gets slightly brighter and brighter as the sun began to rise. This is why those takeoffs and landings are required an hour before sunrise. It's because that's when it's actually still dark. Here's another trick that I tried for the first time on this flight. I occasionally switched over to the iPhone camera so you can get different views from just that GoPro. There's that big bar in the windshield that kind of blocks a lot of the view, so please do let me know what you think of that. Here you can see that the door is open. Something went wrong for some reason and the door did not close properly. That's not a huge problem. This plane flies just fine with an open door, but it does slow you down slightly, so that was another advantage for landing so early at Foothills. I could fix that door, and it definitely needed to be done. I did try fixing the door in flight by setting the autopilot and then putting my full weight on it, but unfortunately that even was not enough to get that door to latch on the top, and the reason for that is the pressure differences. The air is moving very fast outside, so the pressure is lower than it is in the cockpit, and that means all that air is trying to escape through that gap, and that door really does not want to close. No, these planes are not pressurized, but you still do get pressure differences because of this changing in air velocity. Here's the first view of a real sunrise that I started to get. Here was just more cruising on our way towards Foothills, trying to fix that door to no avail, and just enjoying the ride at this point. The sunrise started to get very interesting with all kinds of neat clouds to look at, and it was already here I could tell there'd be 2 layers, one high and one low. It was also nice to finally have a good visual reward to look at after getting up so early. Looking at the instruments and everything looked pretty good, except for a fuel flow gauge that was going back and forth a lot. However, I had another gauge that also showed fuel flow, and there was nothing wrong there. So, nothing to be concerned about. Everything was going quite well, and it was a very nice ride. At this point, we finally came close to Foothills. I entered a downwind, which is where you're flying parallel to the runway, and then you make 2 turns, and then you're lined up with the runway. I don't have audio from the intercom system yet because for some reason I forgot to put that little earpiece inside of the headset, so unfortunately did not record until later in the flight, and there will come a point when I finally did realize that and fixed it. At this point the goal was simply to land, so the propeller needed to be put to the full forward position to have full RPM, and then the landing gear needed to be deployed. Foothills traffic, Arrow 32196, clear the air. Gorgeous airport. They've got a great view of the mountains. Very nice sunrise to look at over there. Now there was some fog rolling in, so I don't want to stick around for too long. Not in a rush or anything. Now at the end of the runway, we'll make sure we'll keep an eye out on this fog. We'll get out of here. It's bad. Let's fix this door really quick. Alright, that's nice. That's kind of how it was in flight. Okay, so it's just the top left. Okay, that sounds a whole lot better. It actually engaged that time. The little latch must have been off. So, before takeoff, flaps 0 to 10 degrees. Yep, good. Prop goes to high RPM. It's there. Mixture goes to best power. Fuel pump will come on. Gear override. Don't want to mess with that. Pitot heat is good. Transponder is on ALT and 1200. Yes, it is. Nice. Heading bug. Let's reset this. This has gotten way off. Put that over to about 7070. We're now going to India 40. Coshocton, Ohio. Yep, that's where I want to go. Activate. It's going to be almost straight north. Got all this stuff ready to go. So let's do it. Those come on. Those will come on. Foothills traffic, Aero 32196 is on the go, runway 21, departing the area to the north. Foothills. And let's get up above these clouds if we can. Fuel pump is on. Everything looks good. That was just a bit of the pre-takeoff procedure for the Piper Aero. What we do is we put the throttle all the way up. The governor on the propeller kicks in. I'll explain those propeller blades later. They're a bit different. And then the plane picks up speed. We take off. And as soon as I decide I don't want to land on the runway again, I retract the gear. So right here there might be an engine failure. I mean, it's very unlikely, but it's a possibility. You don't want to put the gear up. You want to leave it down so that you can land back on the runway. But now at this point, not really an option anymore. You retract the gear, get it up, out of the way, and the plane climbs a lot better without it. You'll see later when I put the gear down near Coshocton, the plane will almost lurch forward as the drag increases from those wheels sticking out into the air. At some point during the climb, I discovered the microphone issue. After about 20 minutes of climbing, I finally made it to the first layer of clouds, and I passed by this very thin stratus layer. Those are the flat clouds. We got to look at some very strange formations. Then we cut to another angle, even farther ahead, where I'm really getting in between those two layers.
Minor issue. I don't know if I had that thing in the headpiece. So, that was probably some very loud footage there. And right now I'm trying to get above these clouds. I don't know if I'm going to get above the upper layer, but I can get above this lower layer. It's getting a lot colder up here. We're flying by this cloud here. We're not in the clouds, we're just between them, which is really fun. Do not do this if you are only VFR rated. If you have an emergency and have to land, good luck. Good luck finding an airport. So, don't do this, but since I have an instrument rating, I don't mind flying between layers of clouds like this. So, there goes that massive cloud there. It'll probably become a thunderstorm in a few hours. It's large enough to build, especially as the temperature increases down at the ground. Oh, there's another little cloud that we flew between. And now it looks like pretty smooth sailing, hopefully. Now we can turn back on course over that way. And now it's just kind of a sea of white both above and below, except for some neat colors right on the horizon. I'm going to get my jacket on, it's getting cold. I can also put the heater on if I need to. I didn't think I'd be using that today, but it turns out I just might. There. And now it should just kind of hold its altitude. See the sun rising up above that layer of clouds, top and bottom layers being illuminated by it. That's a fun place to fly if you can, but I've never been able to do it. Oh, okay. Really interesting clouds to look at. This camera actually picks them up a little bit better than my eyes do. I can't see those wispy bits right there in front of you as well as this can. This iPhone camera is pretty good, and the propeller actually looks like a propeller a little bit. That rolling shutter effect isn't too terrible. It's just clouds upon clouds upon clouds everywhere. But as long as I don't go in them and can stay between them like this, we're good to go. Almost went through that cloud. Do not want to do that. I thought I was good.
North 32196, Leesburg Radio, roger. Thanks for the power report. Be advised you have your meds for IFR, mountain obscuration, as well as icing, a convective segment outlook, in effect, Delta 1555 Zulu.
What I did just there, that was very loud and obnoxious, but that was a do if you just have some time to kill, you're just cruising along, go ahead and make a pilot report. Well, you can see I'm still between those two layers of clouds. There's quite a few over there of cumulus that are building up, possibly in the thunderstorm clouds. Over here, it's a little bit more smooth, and I see openings in that upper layer that I don't think I can climb through. I have no idea how high up that is. I was given a warning for potential icing, but because considering the outside air temperature is still 46 degrees Fahrenheit, we're fine. We just don't want to climb too much higher. But generally, it's been nice and smooth, not too much craziness. Don't get to see the ground, but that's okay. These clouds are really neat, and you only get to see them once, because it's never quite like this ever again. The mountains will probably be there for as long as I exist, so I can always come back and see them again. They're below me, but you definitely can't see them. There's just clouds. Lots and lots of clouds. But I think they're pretty interesting to look at. Propeller speed's a little lower than I'd like. Let's bring it up ever so slightly. It's very sensitive. I've got to get that RPM exactly where I want it. This is like the transmission. It's actually changing the angle on the propeller blades to get it at the speed I want it to be. And then I just have it at full power, throttle's full open. But because we're at 10,500 feet, the air's pretty thin. So the engine doesn't have as much power available, so it's not really producing maximum. But 2,400 RPM is very efficient. It's a great place to leave the engine. We're currently burning 9.1 gallons per hour. I'm still adjusting this, trying to find that peak exhaust gas temperature that I can get. But let's just say we can get 9 gallons per hour. We're currently making a ground speed of 116 knots. So let's do some quick math. You can do 116 times 1.15. That gets us 133 miles per hour over the ground. You divide that by 9 miles per gallon. And we're getting almost 15 miles per gallon in this plane, which sounds terrible. It's pretty awful, actually, for a car. But this is an airplane, and that is absurdly efficient for an airplane. Cessnas will get something like 9 or 10 most of the time. Yeah, I'm not liking that. Let's see how high we can go. Let's turn our altitude hold off. Let's increase our RPM up to 2,500 RPM. And that'll get us a gentle climb. It lets the engine develop a little bit more power. And that should get us up where we want to be. Hopefully above this haze that I don't like, that I can't see through. And remember how I said cumulus clouds like that can build into thunderstorms? That's exactly what happened right there. You can see that anvil shape as it extends up into that upper layer of clouds. What's happened is it's climbed so high that it's been ripped apart by those higher upper level winds. But it was a cumulus cloud. It built up from the heat, or who knows what else let it build. It's still kind of cold up here, but it is heating up with the sun as high as it is. And it built up to a thunderstorm, and I can see it on my radar. Well, it's not my radar, it's that thing connected to other radars, and then it relaying the information to me. I don't want to fly in that. That would be a bad idea. What was that? Oh no, my little receiver. I know why that came off. It's because the pressure's so low, the suction cup didn't work anymore. That is a very real concern, because suction cups rely on pressure, and since I sealed it down on the ground, the pressure difference means that it's falling right off. Well, now I got it back up. So you can see there's another layer of clouds right here. So that's now 3 layers. There's the one down there, there's that one, and then that one up there. Oh, and it looks like there's a few more in between, so it gets quite complicated sometimes. And as long as you don't go in them, you're still VFR. You can see it's stratus clouds here, they're nice and flat. And over there, it's more cumulus clouds. They're starting to build up. Those might become thunderstorms later. Those are already starting to become thunderstorms. They're starting to rain. And they'll probably keep building like that one over there and become pretty powerful. But it's a very interesting to look at. There's so much complexity. All from just water vapor, temperature, and some dust particles. Fuel pump on, switching to the left tank. We'll just make sure we land on the right tank. Engine stable, fuel pump off. Okay, it looks like I'm getting pretty close to these clouds here. Let's do a very gentle left turn using the autopilot. We'll just move that heading bug over there, and the plane will gently turn to the left. And then we can cut right through that gap. Stay legal. Well, you can see now we're leaving these stratus clouds back behind. And we can actually see the ground.
Hey, 3 Charlie,
For the first time today.
return to the heading
I'm listening to some of these approach controllers. It's hard to say, but I do believe that is a nuclear power plant down there. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yep, it's got a cooling tower. Looks like it. It could be a coal plant. Sometimes they use that. Oh, don't want to go weird stereoscopic view. Indianapolis Center, Arrow 32196.
Arrow 32196, Indy Center, what can I do for you?
Indianapolis Center, Arrow 32196 would like to pick up VFR flight following to India 40.
Log 6707.
6707, Arrow 32196.
32196, radar contact 21 miles southwest of Parkersburg Airport. Parkersburg, Alice number 29908.
29908, thank you for the help, 32196.
You too.
Well, now I have what's called VFR flight following. It's a lot like IFR flying. It's where I'm talking to air traffic control. They're helping me get to my destination. I'm going to be crossing through a lot of airspaces, so it's a good idea to be talking to these guys. You can see all this haze. It's quite interesting. Looks like I'm over the ocean, but I'm not. I'm over land. You can kind of see it there. There we go. There's some land. But so much dust and haze. We're getting pretty close to our fuel stop. Indianapolis Center, Arrow 32196 would like to begin descending to Coshocton.
Arrow 32196, roger, maintain VFR. I'm showing the Coshocton Airport is at your 12 o'clock now, and 12 miles.
Arrow 32196 has Coshocton in sight.
Arrow 32196, roger, squawk 1200, change of advisory frequencies approved.
Squawk and advisory frequency change approved. Arrow 32196, thank you for the help today. Gear coming down, gear and transit light on, prompt full forward. Gear and transit light off, 3 green, no red. Just another little hop, and then we should be at where we're trying to go.
Weather, wind, calm, visibility 10, clear, below 12,000.
Looks good, we got the weather. Big gear coming up. Coshocton traffic, Arrow 32196, departing the area to the north, Coshocton.
November 32196, radar contact 25 miles southwest of the Akron-Canton Airport, Akron-Canton altimeter 3001. Stay altitude.
Altitude is currently 5,900 feet. I'm trying to get down to 5.5 for 32196. We're now passing over Akron, Canton, Ohio. There's a lot of houses out here. It's about another 20 minutes to Geauga County.
At this point, the plane was completely full of fuel, so it was simply a quick hop over this Akron-Canton Airport, which you can see there out of the left pane of the windshield. This is quite a busy airspace area. You have Cleveland, which is a Class B airspace that's about as busy as they get for large airports. Then Akron-Canton, there's the next level. Under that, it's Class C. And lots of overlap, very complicated, so very nice to be talking to air traffic controllers so that the most direct route can be used. Still taking advantage of the autopilot on this plane. It's very nice not having to correct constantly and being able to sit back and monitor for traffic instead of keeping the course heading and altitude perfect. With this very long 4-hour flight coming to a close, it was a relief to finally have the end very close and in sight. When landing, I knew my family would be waiting, so I cut the recording pretty early, and I'll cut out some of the audio too so I can do the outro. But either way, I hope you did learn a lot. There's some dangers of getting up at 4 in the morning when that's not something that you normally do. You have to be aware of fatigue and also aware of anything else that could affect your ability to make decisions. This flight went very well, so there was very little concern there, but it's something to remember. Also, sometimes the weather is not exactly as expected. The clouds can be very interesting, there can be haze, and it's good to know how to deal with these things. That's why there are these log requirements for the number of hours that a pilot might need, is so that they can be exposed to a variety of conditions and learn how to deal with a wide range of situations. That's exactly what we want, to trust people with flying machines. At the same time, this also highlights the danger of staying too close to your home airport if you're ever doing training. It's good to get out, get around, go do some things that are more realistic, such as visiting family. It really teaches how to deal with the real world, which is very important when piloting an aircraft. One last thing, one of my friends wonders, why do we put our hands up on the dashboard so often? And the reason for that is that there are so many buttons, so many knobs that can be messed up, you don't want to touch, and it's just a good place to put your arms so you don't accidentally bump into something. You wouldn't want to accidentally hit the mixture or a switch or engage on an instrument that messes it up slightly. It's not the end of the world if you do, but it's good to keep your hands out of the way. So, now and again, putting your hand up on the dashboard is good, especially if you're about to do something, but you're waiting for something else before you do that thing. Then your hand is right there ready to go. So change that knob. One example would be talking to air traffic control for the first time, and they're going to give you a transponder code, which is a code that is broadcasted out so that air traffic control can tell where we are. You put your hand up on the dashboard so you don't accidentally touch your map display, but then as soon as you're given that code, you can instantly just move your hand down an inch or so and be ready to type in that code.
Cleveland approach, Aero 32196 would like to cancel flight following and begin descent to Geauga County.
32196, Roger, radar system range, squawk VFR, frequency change approved.
Squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Thanks for the help today, 32196. Geauga County traffic, Aero 32196 is 10 nautical miles to the southwest, inbound full stop, Geauga County. Pre-landing, brakes, pedal test. That look good. Landing lights is on, wing lights coming on. Air conditioning is off, seatbelts and harnesses are on. Mixture goes to best power, we'll do that shortly. Fuel pump will come on, fuel proper tank, you're right. Yeah, let's go ahead and switch tanks, fuel pump on. Left tank. Fuel pump off, we'll bring it right back on here in a sec.
With that, we'll switch back to post-commentary for the last time. Please do tell me what you thought about this, switching between different audio types, different camera types. I think it changes things up a little bit, keeps it interesting, and that's about it. So, you can see the airport over there to the left. We get lined up in a downwind, which again is parallel to the runway. Pull back on the power, start slowing down, and right when we're adjacent to the area we want to land, the landing gear comes down, the flaps come out, the propeller goes to the maximum speed, so you have maximum power in case you have to go around. And we land the plane like normal. So I hope you enjoyed. Please do like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you'd like to see. I love sharing things like this, so if there's anything you'd like to know, any questions you have, feel free to ask them. I could make a specific video for that, or just comment right there. With all that out of the way, we'll get back to the landing. At this point, it's time to turn to the perpendicular leg. That's when we are 90 degrees to the runway. We call that base, and then from there we turn to final. Now this runway is very small, it's deceptively narrow, so I was actually much closer to it than I thought I was, and as a result there is no point where I really did turn and have a straight leg perpendicular to the runway. I just made it all one big 180 degree turn. It's acceptable, but not the best. Also undershot the turn slightly, so I had to keep turning a bit more to get lined back up at the runway. So, not the most tidy traffic pattern. Just don't do this on your final test. Make sure that it's nice, square. But again, the idea is to get from point A to point B to be safe. And that is what happened on this flight. On the final leg, you can see all these very nice buildings. We're getting very close to them. You're very low to the ground at this point. You have to get low to land, so that's exactly what we do. You can see the runway finally. It's mostly obscured by that large pillar in the middle of the windshield. And that's about it. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a very nice day.